Minecraft is one of the most successful games of all time with over 200 million copies sold. That being said, since its release in 2009, there have been numerous people and companies that have tried recreating its success. Some of these games, such as Terraria and 7 Days to Die, have taken inspiration but went a completely different direction, while other games have just completely ripped off Minecraft entirely. Out of all of the Minecraft ripoffs, only one remains fondly remembered by many people, including myself. This game is CastleMiner Z, and although it looks like a horrible monstrosity, let us dive deep to understand the history, gameplay, and more of Minecraft's best knockoff. On November 19, 2008, Microsoft started a program that allowed for indie studios to publish their games on the Xbox Live Store. These games would be under the title Xbox Live Indie Games and would be fairly cheap, usually in the range of $1 to $5. That being said, the first year and a half of the program was relatively quiet, mostly being ports of successful Newgrounds titles and 2D platformers. However, this would change in 2010 because of a man named Thomas Stone. See, Thomas Stone was a former employee of Microsoft who in October 2009 founded Digital DNA Studios, and after being inspired by the success of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, he released Avatar Paintball on May 29, 2010 for $3. Avatar Paintball as a whole is a pretty mediocre multiplayer shooter. However, it was successful enough to keep Thomas Stone afloat for the next year. In the months following Avatar Paintball's release, another small indie game called Minecraft exploded all over the internet and YouTube. It would explode even more in early 2011, selling over 1 million copies. However, it was only for PC, so numerous indie developers worked to make a game that looked and played just like Minecraft but for the Xbox 360. The first of these was called Fortress Craft and would be released on April 8, 2011 and would sell over 500,000 copies just in the first 6 months. Following this was Total Miner, which unlike Fortress Craft had a survival mode, and this game itself would also be massively successful, getting millions of views on YouTube. And finally, on July 27, 2011, Thomas would release CastleMiner. Now, CastleMiner was just a knockoff of Fortress Craft, so I guess that makes it a knockoff of a knockoff. Anyways, because of that, it was just a simple building game with no survival elements. Thomas would continue to update CastleMiner for the next few months, adding new blocks and new terrain. However, it never really catched on the same way Fortress Craft or Total Miner did, and now Mojang themselves officially announced that they were going to be releasing Minecraft on the Xbox in a few months, so Thomas changed focus. He would turn CastleMiner into a survival game, and so 2 months later on November 3rd, Thomas released CastleMiner Z, and it would quickly become one of the highest selling games on the indie store, and eventually would be the highest selling Xbox Live indie game with over 1 million sales. So let us now get into the gameplay to just understand what makes this game special for me and many other people. CastleMiner Z starts by spawning you in a gloomy, overcast world, and all you can hear is the wind howling. Which, little side note, but I have to give credit to the sound design and soundtrack in this game. For being a mostly single-player indie venture, it's just incredible and it has a really amazing feel. Anyways, for some reason next to you is a giant bedrock tower, and also spawned with you are some basic tools, 16 torches, and a pistol. Which, yeah, there's guns in this game. From there, you kind of just walk around, and the view distance is pretty bad, so it just kind of feels off. And what makes it even worse is that there are no animals in this game, so it's just kind of empty. There are also no structures except for the tower, and the world generation itself also just kind of feels off. See, Minecraft beta generation was fantastical but grounded. This instead kind of just feels like those 90s desktop renders. Anyways, the further you go out, the harder the game gets. Once you pass 200 blocks, these zombie skeleton things, which already spawn randomly, now run at you and can kill you quick. And also a dragon spawns, which just makes your life miserable. So that means you're pretty much just stuck doing Minecraft things. You craft, explore a cave, mine some ore, and then craft again. And that is really most of the game. It's really not that engaging and is easily repetitive. However, Thomas would add things over time that made the game stand out far more than anything else like it on the Xbox. To begin, he added new biomes and ores, which although weren't incredible, made the world generation have a lot of variety. The next thing he added was hell. Yeah, you can go to hell in this game. Hell was just like this giant pit underground, and you could find demons, and there was bloodstone, which was the best ore in the game. And the last major thing he added was aliens, which were these Pokemon looking dudes that would spawn in these weird craters. Inside of these craters, you would be able to find alien goo, which you could use to make laser guns and swords. There were a few other things that were added throughout, such as RPGs, C4s, and lucky blocks, but they weren't too big to the gameplay. All of these things added were actually really cool, and I remember as a kid spending weekends with my friends trying to collect all the laser weapons, and I remember personally freaking out when I joined some random person's world and seeing alien stuff for the first time before being kicked. That all being said, the new enemies added didn't really play well, much like pretty much much everything in the game, but it made the game feel a lot larger than it actually was. Before wrapping up the gameplay, I want to point out that building in this game is completely off, but in a really bad way. To begin, the player really isn't even scaled to the world, and this is because the game uses the Xbox avatar. So blocks feel a lot bigger than the player, and this is really opposite to Minecraft, since the player feels a lot bigger than a single block, but is actually comparable in size. Next, the jump height is also just completely wrong. I don't get why this is this way, but for some reason you can jump 3 blocks in this game, so bases have to be gigantic to not feel small and useless. The worst thing though is just the complete lack of block variety, or even things like slabs. There are stairs, but as mentioned before with the 3 block jump height, it's just better to make jumping platforms. As a whole, the building in the game just feels so limited and just doesn't even feel right. Overall, CastleMiner Z's gameplay is the bare minimum. It's just incredibly dull and boring. But its gameplay is not what makes this game special in my opinion. What makes it special is its atmosphere. Its aesthetic, the sounds, the biomes, and the overall look of the game was really different from anything I've played then and pretty much have played now. All other Minecraft clones I've seen really try to go for the exact style of Minecraft, down to making the sky the same light blue. CastleMiner on the other hand goes a completely opposite direction, making the game feel dark and creepy. But all this being said, I think what people need to realize is that back in 2011 and 2012, there was nothing like it on the Xbox. And even when Minecraft officially released on the Xbox in May 2012, for the first few months, it got old quickly because it lacked a lot of the things the PC had. But CastleMiner on the other hand was $17 cheaper, played somewhat the same, and had tons more to explore. It really wasn't until the summer of 2013 that Minecraft on the Xbox caught up to the PC. That all being said, what happened to CastleMiner Z, Thomas Stone, and Digital DNA as a whole? CastleMiner Z would have more and more added to it till November 8th, 2012, when from then on it would only see the occasional bug fixes. In the spring of 2013, the game would go to PC and would get a Steam release in 2014. The PC version is similar to the Xbox version, though it has a completely new main menu, the worst HUD I've ever seen in a video game, and a new crafting system. And well, since 2015, there's just been no updates for CastleMiner Z. As for what happened to Thomas and Digital DNA, as CastleMiner Z got its final updates, Digital DNA would release Avatar Laser Wars 2 on August 8th, 2012, which itself would be moderately successful. The next year on June 19, 2013, Digital DNA would release Avatar Warfare, which also saw some success. But what's most interesting about this game is that a lot of its weapons would be reused for a failed CastleMiner sequel called CastleMiner Warfare. CastleMiner Warfare would be released on April 2nd, 2014, and pretty much combined the assets of Avatar Warfare and CastleMiner Z. It was a complete failure, both because the gameplay was terrible and because as a whole, the Xbox Live indie game space fell out of popularity. Soon after this, they would release one title for the Xbox One, which also flopped. Then they went to the PC market where they released flop after flop till they released Death Toll on April 11, 2018. Death Toll was kind of a battle royale, but mixed with Tarkov and Arma. Basically, it would be 8 teams of 4 dropping on an island where they need to capture 4 briefcases to escape. The game would also have tons of different vehicles such as helicopters, boats, APCs, and even horses. However, this game looks really unpolished and seems way too complicated to really take off. So after a few months, the game was dead and pretty much abandoned other than 3 bug fixes and the game being made free to play. The game has pretty much killed Digital DNA once and for all, as they haven't made a game since then. Interestingly, there was a Discord message made by Digital DNA that spread around soon after the death of Death Toll. Supposedly, the game was a tremendous failure, reportedly costing over $350,000 to make and only got $13,000 in return. This caused pretty much everyone to be fired except for Thomas, which now only operates the company to collect royalties. Thomas himself, since 2019, has gone to making TikToks and even attempted to sell the original covers of his games as NFTs. The most recent update is from January 19th, 2023, as now Thomas and possibly some investors have shown interest in making a CastleMiner Z reboot, which most likely will be funded by Kickstarter. Personally, I have to say, even though I've criticized Thomas and Digital DNA's game design, I hope to see a reboot for this game. In conclusion, CastleMiner Z is a nostalgic relic of the early 2010s. It's a game that came out in the perfect time and for the perfect platform, and because of that, it sold over 2 million copies, making it the most successful game from the Xbox Live indie program. The game itself was both mediocre but also captivating. Its gameplay was terrible, but its style and world was vast and memorable. As for my opinions on Thomas Stone and Digital DNA, this simply looked to cash in on ongoing trends in gaming, and sometimes it paid off to great effect. I really wonder if Death Toll was a legitimate attempt to enter the gaming space by making something different? Or were they just kind of hoping to cash in on the then ongoing Battle Royale craze? We may never know, as Digital DNA themselves seem to really stop existing after 2019, and Thomas has said nothing about it. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I made this video since CastleMiner Z is one of those games that I feel anybody who had an Xbox in the early 2010s has either played or seen it once. And really, it was a huge part of growing up in that era for me. That all being said, if you're new to the channel and like videos like this, like and subscribe, and if you are already, comment and share. Have a good day and goodbye.